Welcome into our Saints free agency show alongside our senior Saints writer. I'm Erin Summers. Before the offseason got underway, Executive Vice President and General Manager Mickey Loomis said that the Saints would be extremely active in free agency, and they were. JD, what does that say about the Saints' expectations going into 2025?
Well, it's not a complete reset. It's not a rebuild. I think it's more of a revamp more than anything. If you're going to come back with the same quarterback and a lot of the same core guys, if you're talking about Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, most of the entirety of the offensive line, pretty much, Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz and those guys, you're not rebuilding. So the Saints probably feel like they're pretty close to where they want to be in certain areas. And a lot of that has to do with the health of the team. We've heard, the coaches mention that time and time and time again. Mickey Loomis mentioned it time and time and time again. If this team were healthy, when it was healthy, it looked pretty good at times last season. So really a return to health with the addition of some new players, obviously, they hope will get them where they want to be.
With the end of every season, there are moves that are made and players that leave for other opportunities. For the Saints, what were their biggest needs that they needed to address?
Well, I would think wide receiver would be one of them because, your number one and number two guys were injured last year, Chris Olave and then Rashid Shaheed. Obviously, I think you can never have too many offensive linemen, and there seems to be a gaping necessity at left guard. You can't have too many defensive linemen, especially if you're going to change defensive alignments from a 4-3 to a 3-4. So you're going to need some defensive tackles, some nose tackles, guys who can play those positions inside. You need some cornerback help because Paulson Adebo is gone in free agency, so now it belongs to Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry. You hope that those guys can hold up on the corners outside. Maybe when you bring back Isaac Yiadom, hopefully he can help out there. And I think the Saints need another linebacker. They're going to have to get some youth in there because Demario Davis, I call him the Wolverine, but he won't last forever. And if, for whatever reason, his play declines, you need somebody to go along with Pete Werner. Willie Gay Jr. has lost to free agency. So, there are some needs for this team. A lot of them they feel like they probably have addressed. Some they will be able to address in the draft and maybe address even more later in free agency.
When free agency did get underway, the Saints approached it with a bit of a homecoming, bringing back some former players and players that had ties to Louisiana. One in safety, Justin Reid, who was a Dutchtown standout, two-time Super Bowl champ with the Kansas City Chiefs. He had 85 tackles to lead their secondary last season and 2 interceptions. What did you like about this move, JD?
Well, he's more of an in-the-box safety, and he wants to be a thumper. He says he's an enforcer. He says if you come to him, if you get to him, he's going to make you pay a toll. I like that attitude. He's played with Tyrann Mathieu before. That might free Tyrann up a little bit to maybe be a little bit more free safety. We know Tyrann is a ball hawk throughout his NFL career, so hopefully he'll be able to get back to that a little bit. But Justin Reid coming back home says something about the organization. He's a 2-time champion in the Super Bowl. So he comes back to this organization because he feels like it's heading in the right direction. He is the guy that they need because they were looking all last season, the beginning of the season, the coaching staff said, we know we have at safety. We got Tyrann Mathieu. We don't know who's opposite Tyrann Mathieu. Well, you don't have that question going into this season. Now you probably need some depth at the position maybe, but you don't have to worry about who's going to start opposite Tyrann Mathieu because you got a guy who's a 2-time Super Bowl champ who really wants to be in there and be an enforcer, be really physical. And
he really wants to be here with the Saints. Here is Justin Reid on joining his hometown team.
It's hard to put it into words. You get on the plane here and you're excited in the moment, like when I found out that I was coming back home. But then going back through the airport and then being right here in this moment and walking around the building and as everything's starting to settle in, it's just one of the best feelings ever. I got my whole family here. They're actually in the building right now supporting me. I can put on shoulder pads and the helmet right now. The same day that I was signed, I was hitting up all the coaches like, hey, when you going to send me the playbook so I can start diving into it and, we can start talking some ball. And they're like, hold on, we'll get to that, But I know what this city, what it means to this city to play for the Saints and what having a winning organization means for everyone in Louisiana. And that's extremely motivating to do everything we can to bring back that winning culture because we have the talent. We have so much talent on this team, and it's about just putting it together the right way and guys believing in the system, and I believe. and we can make it happen.
The Saints acquired another Louisiana native when they traded for New England Patriots defensive tackle Davon Godchaux. Godchaux played for LSU 2014 to 2016. He was drafted by Miami. Now, he comes back. He's a Plaquemine native. What does he bring to the line that may look a little different under new defensive coordinator Brandon Staley?
Well, he can play nose tackle, or he can play defensive tackle over either one of the guards. Now, he says he slides out the 5 technique also, so it means he can play over the tackles. But you don't necessarily want him over the the offensive tackles. You want him on the interior. He's got that kind of versatility. Obviously, Coach Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator, saw something he liked about him because he saw him when they played New England when he was the head coach of the LA Chargers. And so he remembered what Davon Godchaux did against them. You want that guy who's in the middle, who's a plugger, who's a thumper, and he seems pretty unselfish about it. He says, look, I want stats, obviously. I'm able fully to do my job, but if my job is to kind of hold up the guards and hold up the center to allow other guys to make the tackles, I'm fully capable of doing that also. So you have to have that unselfish guy on the inside because those guys on the interior generally don't get great statistics. They don't pile up a lot of sacks. They don't pile up a lot of tackles. What they do is occupy offensive linemen so your linebackers and your safeties can make those tackles. If he does that, he does his job, and he's willing to do it happily, then the Saints have a good find.
Well, he thinks that there's a big opportunity here for him. Here is Godchaux.
Once the trade came out, New England, both sides, wanted to kind of get a trade, and the Saints was really one of the teams that was really aggressive. And my agent hit me. He was like, New Orleans is calling. I mean, just an opportunity to come back home, playing the NFC South. It's my first time playing the NFC. I've been in the NFC since I got in the league, going on year 9. So I'm excited. I know it could be a great opportunity to help with, some of the run defense here. And I'm excited to do whatever I can to help the team to win. One game at a time. Got some great veterans on the team like Cam, Tyron, Demario Davis. So I'm excited to get to work with those guys, a lot of other guys, and put this thing together and get some wins.
Another former LSU Tiger and New Orleans native out of Brother Martin High School, Will Clapp, is back with the Saints. The Saints signed the center on a 1-year deal. He spent his first 4 years with the Saints, 2 with the Chargers, and most recently the Bills.
Super grateful to be back here. Just be back in New Orleans. I love this organization. I think for my 3 years being gone, playing for 2 different organizations, I've always appreciated how things are done here. On a personal side, getting to come back, be with my family. Last year, I was in Buffalo. My wife and kids didn't travel with me, so that kind of sucked. But when I got that call, come back here, be part of this organization, I was pretty fired up, and I told my agent, let's lock in on this one and try to get this done.
Another former Saint, Brandin Cooks, wide receiver, answers one of the needs that the Saints had coming into free agency. He spent 2 years here, drafted in 2014, and he comes back with 9,532 career yards and 60 touchdowns. What does he add to the wide receiver room?
Well, he gives you speed immediately, even though Cooks is a little bit longer in the tooth now than he was the first time he was
Don't tell
here.
him that, though.
But obviously, he's a guy who can still run. Cooksey has 1,000-yard seasons for 4 NFL teams, 4 different teams, which is an NFL record he shares with Brandon Marshall, which is pretty phenomenal. Now he needs to stay healthy. He's been nicked up the last couple of years, but he needs to be on the field. He gives you a great element if you're talking about adding him to Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Now you've got 3 guys who can really, really run, and you can stretch defenses. You can force them to have to spread out a little bit. You can put a lot of stress on the safeties. And so hopefully that will help the Saints offensively in terms of being able to run the ball, because if you can get those safeties back out of the box to have to guard against that kind of speed, now you give a little bit more space to the running game. So hopefully Cooksey can still do those things. He's got to stay healthy, though, because he's been beat up the last couple of seasons. Hopefully he can stay healthy.
Well, that's what JD thought. Here's Cooks on what he brings to the room.
Definitely seen a lot of, great football. For myself, just elevating my game, obviously, over the years, since being here. So I look forward to, from the playmaking standpoint, but also just the leadership aspect, bringing back to the locker room. From my younger years to now, approaching the game in such a totally different aspect, because obviously, more, you got more knowledge, you got more wisdom, and then just your process on, doing as best you can, taking care of your body, the things that matter the most, staying on the field. So being able to hopefully give them some of that game and then also on the field as well, and just how to play with one another is going to be important.
The Saints went after one final reunion this offseason as they grabbed cornerback Isaac Yiadom back from the San Francisco 49ers. Yiadom was here from 2022 to 2023. He was a great addition on the practice squad and got a lot of playing time on the defense as this time here went on. Last year, he had 5 starts with San Francisco, career high 44 tackles, his 3rd career interception, 2 forced fumbles, and 6 pass breakups. He took advantage of his opportunity, first stint here with the Saints. What will he bring this time around?
Well, we know he's a capable spot starter. We don't know if he's a capable full-time starter. If he's a full-time starter, maybe that allows Alontae Taylor to move back inside to the slot, because Alontae Taylor, I think, wants to move back inside to the slot. If he's not, then you still have that good depth at cornerback, because we've seen in the NFL, you can't have too many good cornerbacks. You can't have too many good offensive linemen. You can't have too many good defensive linemen. There are some positions that you need to stack up and have depth. They know he can play, so at worst case scenario, he's a good quality backup, a guy who you can put in the rotation as your 3rd cornerback maybe. So there are opportunities for Yiadom to be in the lineup, hopefully, and to make an impact. But again, we know he can play. It's whether or not he can be able to crack the starting lineup, or if he's going to be the 3rd cornerback for the outside.
Well, that is all of the players that the Saints signed in free agency with some ties to Louisiana, but they made sure they held on to some that were already here in the building. On the other side of this break, we will break down who they re-signed.